Welcome to another episode of Soldier Stories Podcast. My name is Mark Ross, and with me today is Mark uh, Mark Fox, the creator and founder of Resona Health. You're also the creator of the Vibe device. Is that right?
Yes, that's
All
correct.
right.
And a couple other devices, but the Vibe is the
Right,
main.
right, right. I just want to go on record, Mr. Mark, and tell you that you are a jack of all trades, man. You have your hands in a lot of stuff. I just
I
want to
do.
go on record, after looking you up and seeing your pedigree, you have a lot going on.
I'm trying to delegate more of it every day. That's for sure.
Yes, you do. But before we get into your device, Mark, I want us to just talk a little bit about who you are, because I find you very interesting. And I'll just go off the list of what I know that you are. You're an
Okay.
entrepreneur, of course. You're a scientist, engineer. So you're obviously a very, very smart man. Author, creative thinking consultant, a crop formation researcher, and a former space shuttle chief engineer, among
Yes.
other things.
I'm smart enough to know how dumb I am. I'll put it that way.
That's a very impressive resume there, sir. Um,
Thank
and I know that
you.
we've talked before, and you brought up, I brought up the Space Shuttle Challenger question, and just for conversation's sake and curiosity's sake for the listeners, what did happen?
Well, I mean, what you heard on the news was the O-rings on the solid rocket boosters failed, which is true. That did, but there's a lot of more circumstances around it than just that. The external tank, that the thing that has liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen in the middle of it, that the orbiter uses to burn the three main engines, it leaked all the time. I mean, liquid hydrogen is like 250 below zero, or hydrogen's like 420 below zero, oxygen's like 250 roughly below zero. So you had some cryogenics that were pouring on the O-rings and turned them to glass. They shattered them. So and we know that, even though it wasn't, I know that, okay, and it was in the actual presidential report, but the news never really covered it, is the boosters were 9 degrees and 14 degrees, even though it was 36 degrees outside. That's impossible. It's not wind chill. Nothing has wind chill unless it has a heartbeat. Okay, you got to be living. So there's something else cooling it, and that's what really happened. Is the leak on the external tank made the O-rings fail. So, and you all heard about the boosters and having to redesign them and all the blame and stuff my company got. So yeah, we spent a bunch of time, 2.5 years redesigning them, but Martin Marietta, who owned the tank at the time, spent twice as much redesigning the linking tank. And then the turbine blades on the main engines were the number one problem on the program, because they spin up to 35,000 RPM and they get hit with these cryogens and they crack. So Rocketdyne spent like 4 times what we did rebuilding, redesigning the main engine blades. So that's what happened. We can go into hours and hours of details, but the solid rocket boosters had never postponed a launch before, because they don't do anything until you press a button, right? And then the only thing that's going to shut down a launch sequence is the computer main engines and everything, not the solid rocket boosters. But we had postponed the launch before because we had changed the ocean wave height requirement, okay? Because we almost killed one of our divers. So they have to go in there and put a good cork plug in the bottom of it to get the water out to make it buoyant, so it falls sideways and you can pull it home. So we put a new requirement in that said, hey, we can't launch with big waves, and the launch before Challenger had large waves outside specification. So that was the very first time, quote, the solid rocket boosters postponed the launch. So our customer at NASA, Larry Malloy, he didn't like that at all, because now he's in the limelight that his contractor is postponing a launch. So when Challenger came up the next time, he kind of flipped. It was always prove it's safe to fly, prove it's safe to fly, prove it's safe to fly. And it was kind of switched around. Prove why it isn't safe, which is a mindset that nobody had tried to wrestle with before, because he didn't want to be in the limelight again of canceling the launch. I mean, that's kind of the short term. There's a lot of other pieces to it, but for the sake of your listeners, we'll just leave it at that because that's 3-hour conversation of detail.
Wow. All right. All right. And in that same vein, Mark, I believe that this exists, but I want to ask you,
Okay.
since you worked at NASA and you got the Challenger and all that stuff, what are your thoughts on extraterrestrial life?
Statistically speaking, it's impossible that we're the only ones here. There has to be it, just because of the sheer number of planets and exoplanets. If people can go look at that as it's kind of like the Goldilocks thing, right? You got too hot, too cold, and you got just right. And about a third of the exoplanets that we have found are about right. And if they have water on them, that's what we know as life is water based, right? I think it's statistically impossible for there not to be. Could be. I mean, the two amazing things, right? Is if there's other life out there, that's completely amazing. If we are the only ones, that's equally amazing, right?
Yeah.
Because it statistically doesn't seem possible. So, and you had mentioned at the beginning about crop formations. I don't jump to anything about aliens and crop formations. I don't say that's what's causing them because I don't know what's causing them. I just say we have a lot of proof that 95% of them are not man-made. And there's a whole checklist we can go through that explains why we think we know that. But yeah, to answer your question, me personally, absolutely positively, there has to be life out there. Statistically, it just doesn't make sense.
Yes, I believe that to be so true also, because like you said, we can't be it. I mean,
the government came out during COVID, right? This is how bad COVID was. The government came out and said, we got flying aircraft and we don't know what they are. They basically said we have UFOs, and nobody cared because in the middle of COVID, you go look at the report, but it's like whatever they admitted, there's an X percentage of them that we cannot identify. They're not ours. We don't believe they're anyone else's. Any other country's technology, we don't know what they are. So that, by definition, says there's some alien. By the word is something else is there, and this is highly complex technology that can fly without propulsion that we know of. It can go into water without making a splash. You guys probably all seen those videos. Those are real. They're military cameras chasing these things, and they can pilots have been reporting them since we've been flying, right? Is they see craft that we can't understand that move at speeds that we can't understand. And of course, in the old days, right? You don't want to lose your career. So if you're a pilot, you just shut up. You don't say much about it because you get marked as being weird. And, maybe we're going to pull your flight status and ground you because you're a freak, right? You're mentally ill. So, but I mean, when they're allowed to speak freely, which that's happening now. Dr. Stephen Greer, if you know him, he's been the guy pushing it a lot in the United States, is just to try now that I said United States, there's a lot of other countries that admit, yes, there's alien craft in our airspace. The United States has been the one to fight it the longest.
Understood. Now let's talk about your Vibe device. What got you into the concept of creating the Vibe device?
Yeah, the very, very first thing was my dog couldn't come upstairs one morning. This is long 25 years ago, and she was crying, which she'd never done before. So we took her to the vet and had x-rays done on her, and she ended up having severe arthritis in her spine, which is awful. Tells you how tough our dogs are, right? Because she didn't whine up till then. And so a veterinarian friend of mine is named Dr. Oz Jackson. He wasn't my vet. He's a friend of mine that's a vet because he's out of state from where I lived at the time. And he said, hey, there's this magic machine that puts out frequency energy, and it can reverse arthritis and a lot of other things. So that's how I got into it. I dove into that, being a skeptic, rocket scientist, like, what do you mean frequencies and energy and how's it doing that? And so I dove into it that way because of my dog. Then I learned about it. It's like, this can't be real, blah, blah, blah. And then you start looking at all the data and more of it. You can say, oh, this isn't real, whatever. And then you take your time and look into it and you find out there's 6,000 published studies on it in PubMed, right? There's actually 35,000 published papers out there on this technology. And then you start looking at what it really does in clinical trials and what it's doing for people. And you're like, okay, there's something there. Now you can get in this immediate argument about placebo effect, which has some factor, there's no doubt, but there's too much evidence that it's helping with so many different things. So that's how I got started. It was my dog's arthritis. What made me actually build the Vibe was I saw what it was doing for PTSD and trauma, and a huge success rate, but the devices were expensive and you had to drive 2 states to get to one. I mean, they weren't easily accessible, and they were very expensive, right? So it's like it couldn't be that hard. So naively, I walked into it can't be that hard to build a affordable pocket-sized thing. You just put a coil in there with a battery and run frequencies on MP3 file, right? So that's how I started off naively, and I burned up a bunch of them. I had an 8-foot pile of coils over here in the corner because none of them worked. And so there's a big trade-off on size of it, weight, not getting too hot because it is putting out energy. So it'll get to like 105 Fahrenheit. So it's balancing all these things was a challenge, but we got it figured out finally. So yeah, that PTSD was the first one that and today we have, to my knowledge, till somebody tells me I'm wrong, we have the largest PEMF PTSD study in the world with a 98% success rate, with clinical data that's been validated by third-party doctors and all those type of things. So that's it, was PTSD, blood sugar, type 2 diabetes, back pain, neck pain, sleep, anxiety. The book I'm writing right now is on anxiety and how this is really a game changer for a time, because tackling anxiety is the #1 ailment in people and pets across the globe.
Really?
Yes, #1 in every country, every continent, people and pets. So dogs, cats, horses, giraffes, elephant, everything. Anxiety is the #1 thing. And so I'm spending a lot of time writing a book called Go Find Joy, which is how to use, what is anxiety? Is it really a mental health issue? Why are you ashamed of it? You know, all of those things and what causes it and how these devices can really, really help with it. We've seen, and we're still have ongoing studies there, but we're getting huge, huge success with it.
Nice. So, okay, well, just out of curiosity, what does PEMF mean? That's that acronym.
Yeah, it's a big acronym, 4-letter acronym. It's pulse electromagnetic fields, which sounds super woo-woo, but the Earth does it all the time. So you're engulfed in it right now. So the Earth, and it's what it sounds like. It's a magnetic field. So you can start off with, static magnets for therapy have been around since Plato, right? He's the first guy, I think, to write about it for 3,500 years, right? Pulse electromagnetic fields, excuse me, have been shown about 100 years ago to be much more therapeutic, up to 100 times more than a static magnet. So that's what it means. It's a magnetic field that's pulsing at a certain, quote, frequency. The Earth, it's called the Schumann frequencies, named after Schumann, who discovered them, are 7.83 hertz, 14.1, and 20.3. 7.83 is the largest, is the strongest band. And it's caused by, which is interesting enough, all the lightning strikes on the planet Earth echoing off the ionosphere. So the ionosphere and the Earth actually act like a bell. So it's 7.83 hertz. So you're engulfed in pulse electromagnetic fields. These devices, through trial and error, are between 1 and 1,000 hertz, trying to find the right recipes or songs. So there's actually we get asked this every day by customers. What frequencies it run at? It doesn't. It's running at pairs that are changing every 1 to 4 minutes. So frequency A is where is it in the body? B, what's wrong with it? That's oversimplifying it. And like PTSD is the most complex one. It's 76 different frequency pairs that change every 1 to 4 minutes. That's why it's the longest protocol. Because PTSD is in every part of your body, every part of your brain, all of your organs, in your blood, it's in your bones. So you got to address all of those things to do it correctly.
Wow. Okay, that's a very deep perspective on frequencies. But before I ask a question about that, explain to me or explain to us, how does the Vibe device work for us? Break that down as to how, that device will work. What do we have to do?
You asked about PEMF, so let's go to a higher level for a second. So nothing in the world happens without an energy exchange. An energy exchange. So you don't breathe oxygen, you don't drive a car, you don't metabolize food, you don't fall down, break your leg, you don't do nothing. You don't make campfire s'mores, hot dogs. Everything's an energy exchange of some kind. So energy can be put in your body many ways, but primarily with electrical current. Most people are familiar with like a TENS unit. PEMF, magnetic fields, light, vibration, or sound, right? And so a lot of people know of chanting and sound bowls and all this. So they're all energy going into your body. They're just different ways to put them in there. What it's actually doing that we know of and can prove, we being the community, we know this, and doctors won't argue this. Your cells have an electrical charge like a car battery. When that charge gets low, you get sick. And you need the charge at the membrane in the cell to get good stuff in the cell and waste products out. So when that charge gets low, you get sick. This recharges, it increases the voltage at the cell. So it's recharging cells' batteries, number one. Number two, ATP, which is the number one chemical that your body uses for food, that your cells specifically use for food. It increases ATP up to 500%. So those two things, it's recharging your cells' batteries so the cells can run more efficiently, and it's giving the cells more food so your body can do what it does best, is heal itself. Now, there's tons of other things you could dive into that are theories, and they're all still, I always get in this argument between theory and proof, right? It's like doctors will go, show me exactly. I'm like, you don't know how aspirin works, so shut up. You don't know how any drug works. You have a theory, but you haven't proven it. Right. You haven't proven it and shown it, right? So, yeah. And every doctor that hears this will still argue with what I just said there. I'm like, now, and I always use this analogy. Every single listener that you have right here has heated a slice of pizza in a microwave, right? How does that work? And now that I just asked you that, you're going to know it's a trick question, right? Nobody knows. The theory is you're hitting the microwave's running at, I think it's 423 hertz. I'm getting the number wrong, but it's supposedly the rotational vibration of a water molecule to make a water molecule spin on its own axis. And then the friction heats up the pizza and the pepperoni in your pizza. Nobody in the world has ever photographed or videotaped a spinning water molecule. So it's a theory. It's never been proven, and there's no technology to even do that, right? So it's like, so that it's what I tell everyone on this is relief before reason, as long as it's not hurting you and you're getting right. I mean, if it's working for you, you don't have to know the mechanisms of action. And it's the same thing I say to doctors. Well, okay, well, your drugs are only 60% effective. So why doesn't it work on the other 40%? Well, we don't know, right? On any drug, right? There's nothing 100%. It's like, well, that we don't know. So, okay, then you don't understand all of it. So as long as it's not hurting anyone, I think relief before reason is what the thing I coined is like, just go with that and quit spending your life trying to figure out exactly how it works, because you won't. I mean, you said at the beginning, I'm smart. Here's some risk. I'm not that smart. I used to teach though at Los Alamos National Labs. These are the smartest nuclear physicists in the world, right? Right. And I go in there and I'm teaching them 4 times a year. And I know they're going to murder me because I'm just a stupid chemical engineer. So I walk in there. I don't ever make eye contact with them. I don't. I walk in. I got a chart that shows the history of physics. And I go, here, 12 years later, completely wrong. 18 years later, completely wrong. 25 years later, completely wrong. Another 10 years later, completely wrong. I go through the history of physics of how wrong they've been every time. So I said, statistically speaking, there's a 99% chance whatever you did your doctor's thesis on is wrong. So shut up and have an open mind and listen to me. So I'm going to try and teach you about creative thinking. And they all kind of like slouch in their chair, right? Because I've already beat them up, tenderize their brain for 15 minutes before I even start lecturing. So I just slap them around and put them in their place. And for the most part, it usually works. So you don't, everyone knows the world in technical terms it's a video game. Every time you get to another level, the rules change, right? We didn't have string theory and all this stuff 100 years ago, all these new things. It's like, So
Yeah.
you just got to keep an open mind about it. Admit that you barely know a fraction of a billionth of a percent of anything.
Hmm. Hmm. So with the frequency aspect of the conversation, Mark, do you it, does different vibrational frequencies actually promote healing? In,
Yes, it's basically resonance. So and in your everyday life, right? When you open your car door with your fob, right? Why does it open your car door, not the car next to it?
mm,
Because what you're transmitting is resonating with the receiving end of the lock. Okay. Why does your garage door opener only open your garage door, not the one next to you? Right. Because it's resonating with it. Why, when you go to 102.6 FM, do you not hear 104.7 FM? Because the antenna that's transmitting is at that frequency, and you've tuned your receiver on your radio to resonate, right, with the sending signal. So there's, if you're super old like me, Ella Fitzgerald on Memorex, you know, his most famous commercial, she's singing and breaking glass, right, with her voice. So
right.
she's hitting the correct frequency of the glass so that it shatters. And different glass requires a different pitch and tone to break.
Uh,
So
uh-huh.
it's resonating with, and everything has a natural frequency. Just because it's one of the chapters I just wrote. So on the space shuttle program, after the first launch with Young and Crippen, the two astronauts, they're in the middle of the debriefing. They're like, was there any issue, blah, blah. And then finally Crippen goes, well, I couldn't see for 2 minutes. And they go, what do you mean you couldn't see? And they go, Crippen, could you see? He goes, no, I couldn't see nothing for 2 minutes. What do you mean you couldn't see? Everything was blurred. And then right at 2 minutes, I could see fine. Both of them. Okay, well, the smoking gun is the solid rocket boosters because they come off at 2 minutes. So you dig into there and you look at it and you found out, oh, your eyeball resonates just like a key fob at 17 hertz. If you stand on a table that's vibrating at 17 hertz, you're going to fall over because you're dizzy. It's going to make your eyeballs oscillate. So that's a natural frequency of an eyeball, just like your kidney has one. You know, ultrasounds and those type of things, you're breaking up kidney stones, you're
Yes.
resonating with the frequency of the stone. And that's why it shatters like Ella Fitzgerald's wine glass. So it's that's what it is basically resonance and matching resonance and transferring energy that way.
And in the same respect of breaking, it also promotes healing. And
It promotes healing, for, as I said earlier, from the part we understand the most is by increasing the voltage on the cells and giving it more food. That's stuff that's been measured that we know. The other one that's been measured, anyone can go Google this on YouTube, is blood flow and blood clotting, right? Where a healthy blood flow is free flowing blood cells. They're not clotting and they're not clumping. And it's been shown many, many times that this PEMF energy promotes that make the clotting go away and to have more free flow. So, you know, your body, all the listeners know this, the more blood flow you got, the healthier you are, right? You get more oxygen delivered to where it needs to be, more nutrients delivered to where they're supposed to be, right? Neuropathy, fibromyalgia, all that stuff where you don't get blood flow or nerves, right? Issues to the ends of your feet and hands and that kind of thing. So there's things like that that we've proven what it's actually doing, quotes proving. You're looking at it, right, is we know it changes the voltage, we know it increases food, we know it increases blood flow. You know it reduces inflammation when you put it in your pocket and your swollen foot goes down. You can see it, right? It's like, oh, it did something. How does it do it exactly? Don't know.
And you mentioned PTSD. For veterans, first off, is there a number or a statistic that you have that you can talk about regarding veterans that use this device? Is there a percentage of people that go ahead?
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, in our studies, 98% of the people see success. What I'm measuring by success is I'm using the Veterans Administration, it's called PLC-5 questionnaire. It's 20 questions, 0 to 4. Okay, 1 to 4. 0 to 4. Okay, so the highest score you can get out of 20 is 80. So the Veterans Administration has determined roughly If you're above 31 to 33 on your score, you most likely have PTSD, 80 being the worst score you could have.
Mm.
So when we say 98% success rate, 98% of the people 30 days later, their score came down. So that's the 98%. If it drops more than 11 points, it's statistically and clinically significant, and at least 2/3, almost 75% of people see that dramatic of a change. So that's how we're measuring it, is a number of ways, but that's one. The other one is, and this is, I learned this the hard way. I initially went in and said, cortisol, everyone kind of knows if your cortisol is higher, that's equates with stress. So PTSD and stress should have high cortisol. So I ran a study with the device to see if cortisol levels came down. What I didn't realize, and nobody knows why, somebody with PTSD, the vast majority of people with PTSD have low cortisol already instead of high. You'd think if they're stressed out, it'd be high, but it's not. So for whatever reason, it's low. So that's the wrong biomarker to use for before and after.
Okay.
Heart rate variability, and people that aren't familiar with it, it's everyone's talking about now because it for good reason. Not your heart rate, not your pulse at 60 beats a minute. Heart rate variability is how much in little slight milliseconds is your heart rate variability between beats, because it's never exact, right? It's never 1 second. It's 0.99 or 1.02 or whatever. What's been shown and proven is the larger the heart rate variability you have, you think you want it to be steady. No, you don't. You want it to be as large as you can. And that's been shown to be the most healthy condition for your body to do fight or flight without overreacting. So heart rate variability is the number one thing that the Veterans Administration uses. Athletes use it now to measure when to recover and when to work out more. There's a whole ton of things on heart rate variability. We have coming out in 2 months, we have a new wellness watch that will have lots of things on it, actually blood sugar, blood pressure, but it'll actually have heart rate variability, SDNN, and there's a couple different ways to measure it. So you can see if these things are working. I mean, the gold standard is subjective reporting, right? I came in with a pain level of 8 and I left with a 2. But what we're trying to do is supplement all of that subjective data with objective data. And nowadays, Fitbit rings and Aura rings and Apple Watches, and a lot of people have these devices so they can verify what it's actually doing to them. Most of them do not have heart rate variability as a separate thing that you can measure. Some do, but that's why we've added that specifically to our watch. So we'll have a biomarker thing that's affordable that people can see what is the Vibe doing for you. So
nice. Is there how often should a person use your Vibe device?
Very good question. So the guidance that we initially gave people was 3 to 4 times a week for 30 days. So excuse me, if you don't see a different, that's good news. You don't have to wait forever. If you don't see a change in 30 days, you got the wrong protocol, you misdiagnose yourself, or it's just not going to work for you for whatever reason. Like the 40% of drugs don't work for some people. Some things we see an immediate response, and everyone's different. Okay. But sometimes blood sugar, you'll see it drop in 30 minutes. People will go, oh my, because they're measuring it, right? They're pricking their fingers. They have Libre, Bluetooth, continuous glucose monitors on, right? Back pain, that kind of thing. A lot of times people go, oh my God, it's gone, right? Asthma is a huge one where people like suddenly can breathe and they couldn't. Some other things are longer, right? Sometimes it takes a whole month, and it's a weird phenomenon. We could spend 5 hours on it because I've spent hundreds of hours on it. People forget how they felt 30 days ago. So I have so many Zoom call videos where people go, yeah, I don't know if it really helped me. I said, can you get on a Zoom call with me? And they go, all right. I said, so you don't think it really worked for you? And they're like, no. I go, do you know you reported a 72 30 days ago and you just reported a 12? And they start crying. They forgot how bad they felt. So one of the best highly scientific things you can do, ask your spouse and kids if you're more fun to be around, right? Ask your friends if you're more fun to be around, or if they see a difference in your personality and how you're acting, and you're not biting everyone's head off, that type of thing. And they will cry when they get that feedback from people. Go, yeah, you know what, Steve, you know the reason we invited you to the barbecue this year?
Mm.
Because last time we saw you a month ago, you weren't an asshole like you've always been. So we're like, hi. So there's a litmus test that's all around you, and it's the people and friends and family and stuff that see the difference as well. So
good point. If you want the truth, ask your family and friends.
yep.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. This puts a big perspective on things, because as a veteran, as you know, I'm a veteran, and you mentioned something about one's outlook, and uh, and for me, I have to think about uh, how I view myself. Right? I
Right.
can, I can't, if I can visualize myself being better, then I'm not going to be, because what's up in here is going to come out. You're going to project what's in here, meaning your thoughts, your feelings, right?
Yes.
So if you're an asshole, like you're, uh, whoever, but if you're an asshole and maybe it's something up in here that's twisted, and uh,
Yes.
you may not necessarily need your device, but you need that family member or that friend to, pull you off to the side and redirect you. It's like, hey, you're an asshole. Some people just like you told you're an asshole,
Right. Something you're alluding to, and it's I wrote a whole chapter on in this latest book, is everyone's heard of the placebo effect, right? Is like you get better without the actual medication, right? So, and one of the most famous studies ever was, which you can't do anymore because you can't butcher people and do this, but he did knee surgery on a bunch of people in the control group. He cut their knee open and did nothing and just sewed it back up. A large percentage of the people that didn't get a knee replacement could walk again suddenly, and they felt better. So everyone, yeah, it's a real study. You can go Google it. We don't cut people and butcher them anymore and do this stuff. This is back like in the 50s or something. I think he did it.
Yeah.
But the opposite of placebo is nocebo. Okay. So, and there's tons and tons of double-blind clinical trials that prove this, right? Is if you go in there with the mindset is absolutely positively it won't work, then it probably won't. I even wrote in the book, this is going to offend people, but I say it anyway. If you have an AOL or a Yahoo email address, don't buy my product, because you've already got a mindset of I'm still stuck 30 years ago and I'm not going to try new stuff. And those are the people that return our devices. I've done the analysis. 80% of my returns are AOL people. Right?
Wow.
Now I just offended a bunch of people, but it's like, yes, you can talk yourself into there's no way this is going to work.
Right.
And sadly, people never want to admit this, but there is a population of people that long-term chronic and physical pain, but that's them, that's their personality, that's their life, and they don't know how to operate if they're not getting attention, and right, so they don't want to get better, which is super sad in some cases. I'll tell you one thing that is sad with military vets. I've never brought this up on a podcast before, but this is really, really, really sad. Multiple military veterans would not use my device because they're afraid I would make them better and they'd lose their benefits. I've had that conversation with over 100 vets. They're like, I can't afford to lose my benefits and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I get that, but wouldn't you rather have your life back so you can freedom? And they're scared. They're scared. And we, I've tried to go to the VA. I've talked the head of the VA, the PTSD department, super nice guy. Last guy I talked to him, it's the same dude. Really wants me help, but he's like, Mark, my hands are tied. I can't. This is when I was trying to give him away for free to military vets. He goes, I can't even say sign up here for a free one because I'm endorsing it. I'm like, you're not endorsing it by giving it away for free. He goes, yeah, in the government's eyes, we are. So we can't do that
because they're doing it for you.
Yeah. So that never happened, right? The other sad part is like, I have like 30 of these at the Pentagon. I have for a year. And a 2-star general said, if this really works for PTSD, every soldier should have it as standard issue. I'm like, right. How do I make that happen? Hasn't happened yet. Right. So it's That's a whole other thing, right? Do I go hire lobbyists, the VA and the DOD to try and get the rules changed to get an affordable device? Same thing with first responders, right? You know, fire departments and local police, they don't have any money for these things. So I donate a lot of them. It's like, I want to run a study on, if you're if you're a first responder, run some of the protocols on the way there, or while you're sitting around the fire department doing nothing. So when you do see some mangled body in a car accident, maybe you won't have PTSD as a preemptive strike. We've never been able to do that study. I want to, but there's a lot of things like that that I wish I could go do. I haven't been able to do it yet, but then we're doing tons and tons of exciting stuff that not every day, but every week we learn something new that a customer will contact us and say, hey, it did this, but I'm like, what? Holy, well, I had 3 people. I'll just throw it out real fast. I had 3 people 2 weeks ago, same couple days, said, this device, the newer one that we have, well, there's a vagus nerve one on the Vibe too, but this is a pendant that you wear. This is a vagus nerve stimulator. You just turn it on and wear it. 3 different people. I didn't know you could do this. They told me my AFib on their heart. They showed me their AFib was like 97% and it dropped to 2 by running that. I said, how do you even measure that? They go on an Apple Watch. I don't have an Apple Watch, so I didn't even know an Apple Watch measured AFib. So we're getting ready to do I'm doing a study right now. Just started it with a cardiologist in New Zealand to go look at AFib and POTS, POTS, which is another heart condition, and to see if he wants to actually do POTS because he goes, AFib, we have some solutions for. POTS, we don't have anything. We don't know what to tell anybody for it. It's awful besides drugs and medication. And so stuff like that happens, which, and I've learned over the few years I've been doing this, right? Again, I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose, cure, or treat anything. I can just observe what's going on. And it's like, most people agree with this. General inflammation's the root problem of 80% of all ailment. It's inflammation of something. So run the general inflammation protocol. If it's toxicity, run the liver protocol. If it's smells, sounds like an allergy, run allergy. Okay. I can't say the COVID word, but I just did. But if you run the flu protocol, it helps a lot with long COVID, which nobody in the government wants me to ever say that. Okay. So we know that. And so we can look at different things. Fibromyalgia, because it's nerve related. Mark had 3 doctors in the same week. It was weird. Said, hey, this thing's kicking butt for MS. I go, I don't have an MS protocol. What are you running? Fibromyalgia? And they went, yep. So they're looking at it logically and going, okay, there's not an exact match for this thing, but it falls in one of these categories. Give it a try. My favorite story of all, and if it doesn't raise the hair on your arm, you're not human. Okay. 17-year-old girl said, Mark will never have a date in my life because I have Tourette's. Every boy in school thinks I'm a monster. They hate me. I'm a freak. I ran brain balancing on the device. It's one of the protocols. My Tourette's disappeared and I have a date Saturday night. Then she married the guy 2 years later.
Oh,
now I didn't tell her to run brain balancing. I didn't know it would do anything with Tourette's, but there's one case where it did, and her Tourette's have not come back. So that's a cool success story.
So basically, Mark, you're sitting on a gold mine. I mean, and not to say
my wife would disagree.
Because well, think about it. You're using something that, and I'm just going to say this: you're using something that has been used by, people, in past generations and tribes, whatever, for centuries. This isn't nothing new. Frequency resonance, it's not new. But what you're doing and how you're doing it, it's revolutionary. But the scary part about it is people are running from it.
People are what?
Are running from it.
Well,
veterans in particular.
Yeah, I don't know if the veterans are, some of them are running for, as we just said, because they're afraid to help them, right? Benefits, but normally, so this is a weird thing because and I've done this, right? If you go a man on the street with a microphone, you go, hey, you know what PEMF is? 1 out of 15 or 1 out of 20 people will say yes, because they know what a beamer mat is at a chiropractor or a wellness spa, right? But then more and more people are learning about it. What's interesting though, if you go to a horse owner, say, you know what PEMF is, 100% know what it is. All of them. They know what a MagnaWave is. It's this big $15,000 machine, looks like a beer keg with big rings, because they've all had the horse treated with it by the veterinarian, or another horse at their stable got treated with, and they've seen it. They know what the technology is. So this is the argument I have. Here's my avatar, 52-year-old cowgirls. Okay. That's my market for the horse world. They're like, there ain't no way this little 2.4 ounce thing's going to do crap for a 1,000-pound animal. I'm like, you want to bet? It can't. Like, right, watch. So we have, goes around their vagus nerve. It's like a cell phone holder with a 30-inch elastic band. It sits on their vagus nerve on a horse. And we're having huge success with that. I've only got like 2 returns from horse owners. And people are like, this can't work. How does it work on this gigantic animal? Just because he weighs 1,000 pounds doesn't mean it's actually the opposite. Horses are, as soon as I say this, every horse owner will go, I get it, are more energy sensitive than humans. They know when the weather's coming. Most animals are, right? We all know the stories of when animals are running uphill.
Yeah.
There's a tsunami coming. You don't know about it yet, but they do. Yeah. Start following animals, right?
Yeah.
Titanic, right? Follow the rats.
Right. Right. You're right.
Running away from the water. So yeah, it helps a lot with horses. And a lot of people are very familiar with that technology in the horse world. And more are learning about it. And here's Mark, here's how they learn about it. Here's how people learn about it. Almost all of our customers are long-term chronic physical or mental pain, usually both. Everything else they've tried didn't work. And we all know the side effects of every drug commercial you've seen. By the time they get through the anal bleeding, heart attack, death, and all the side effects, you forgot what the drug's even for, right? When you see a 6 o'clock news commercial, it's like, what was this drug even for when it started off, right? Because there's so many side effects and stuff. That's why people come and they go, what the hell? I'll try something like this because it's not expensive. When we have a 30-day money-back guarantee, if it doesn't work, send it back, right? So that's how most of our customers is. It's super interesting because, for example, with blood sugar, here's how I get most of my new wholesaler doctors. This is a very typical scenario. The patient walks in, the doctor looks at their A1C and their blood sugar, and they go, holy crap, your A1C is 5.4. It's never been below 8. You're finally doing what I told you to do. You change your diet, you're exercising, obviously. They go, nah, I started using this. And the doctors snatch out of the hand. They go, what the hell is that? And then they call me and go, what is this thing? And then we have this kind of conversation. And they go, it's impossible. I go, well, you just saw it. You just saw the results, so try it. Excuse me. So I probably used to get 1 wholesaler a month. I probably get two new ones a day now. And it's through the reverse effect of the patient going to the doctors going, do you know about this? Because it's working for me. And a lot of times like, no, because they haven't been trained on it, right? Doctors don't get trained on, doctors get trained on new drugs by the drug companies. Right? They're continuing, it's sad. That's what their continuing education is. They go to some resort somewhere and the pharmaceutical company presents whatever the new drug is that they're peddling that year, right? Excuse me. I got a scratch in my throat.
That's all right. With you.
All right.
So along with your book that you mentioned earlier, Mark, what else do you have going on? I know you have some things going on.
There's a lot going on. So
because you mentioned you had the wrist device coming out.
Well, I have a book that's already out called What on Earth Are We Doing to Our Health? It's on the website now. The new one's called Go Find Joy, which is concentrating on anxiety. The newest product that we have besides the Vibe is what I already showed, the Vega Vibe. So it's a more of a piece of jewelry is what it looks like, but it's powerful and super light. That's out. We got the watch coming out in a couple months. We have another one, I think what you're referring to. This is a prototype. And I can't say the word Alzheimer's because the black SUVs will show up at the front door, but it's for Alzheimer's. Okay. So it's going to put out light and PEMF. So it's a dual action. What this is a magnetic field tester. You can see it jumping around and you can hear it. So you will wear this on the inside of your wrist and the back of your neck. We have a little holder for the back of your neck because those are two areas. They're in Chinese medicine, they're acupressure points or whatever to put energy into the body. We'll have this in a couple months, but I won't sell this until I get clinical trials back on Alzheimer's, because I'll just get murdered in that space if you don't have the proof for it. So we're gonna go prove it first. We also had one thing with any PEMF, you need to be, it'll work if you're not hydrated. It just works a lot better if you're hydrated because it's resonating with the water in your body, just like a pebble in a pond, right? So it's, and one piece, so we tell people to be hydrated. The other piece is magnesium, electrolytes, to have the right amount of electrolytes in your system. Has been proven that PEMF is more effective. So we have our own PEMF electrolyte powder coming out in a couple weeks. That's specifically formulated for PEMF therapy. And then the other top secret one is an anti-wrinkle system. So I already sell voodoo, so I got to be careful with this, but you can infuse the frequencies into water and then just drink the water. It'll stay in there for about 6 hours antidotally, and you can put it into cream, right? So we go like that, and then it'll hold the frequencies for about 30 days in the cream. Now, I've never marketed this our cream because I don't want to, I'm already selling voodoo. So when I'm saying I can put it in cream, that's another level of magic. So we sell a lot of cream, but I've never ever ran an ad for cream. But what we're going to do is we have we have an anti-aging protocol. So we're going to have a triple peptide anti-wrinkle system that you infuse the frequency into it. So it's going to use the energy of the frequency in the cream plus peptides for wrinkles. Now, every wrinkle Cindy Crawford commercial you ever seen in your life, everyone in the world knows they're photoshopped. Everyone knows the before and after to change the lighting, temperature, right? 600 to 700, right? It's all smoke and mirrors and pulleys and stuff. Indeed. So I have a dermatologist that's bought about 50 of these, and he loves them. He's like, he wants to partner. I say, all right, what can we go do to go prove this actually got rid of wrinkles and made your skin younger without pictures? He goes, you use a such and such. I go, what is that word? Because I never heard that word before. And he looks at me like, dumbass rocket scientist. He goes, it's a small biopsy. So we just go in and take a little, very, very small thing out of their skin, and I can look at collagen. And then he named 6 other things. I didn't know what that was. And he goes, so I can measure before and after of the actual chemistry and biology of the skin.
Right.
Let's do that. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll be the only, I don't know if it'll work. I think it will, because just infusing anti-aging into this basic cream without any peptides works. With the peptides, it should make a huge difference with them combined, but I don't know. So that's coming. We already have it. In fact, we just got the sample last week before last. So we'll be selling that too. And then Gabby, who is my VP of Ops, is inventing other stuff, and I keep telling her I got to balance that with not making her angry, because I need her to quick throw more products at me, because if we get too many of them, you can't manage them all, right? So here's some relief. Here's the secret. We've never been out of stock on the Vibe, but 2 months ago we were down to 50 units. You know how many we have today? 4. And we just got another 3,000 an hour ago. So waiting for them. So we've upped the production because we're growing so fast. I don't ever want to run out of inventory, but we almost did today. You want to hear the funny part though?
Go ahead.
But they shipped it from China to the old address where she lived with her boyfriend, and they don't live together anymore. So it went to his house today. It's like, where is it? They sent it to the wrong address. So it's like, are you guys still on good enough terms? You can go there and get all this stuff. She goes, yes. Right. We're loading the truck. He's already helped him load the truck. It's all good. I'm like, okay, fine.
Right. Crisis averted.
Crisis averted, barely. Yeah, I was like, oh.
Wow.
The other thing we have too, just for dogs. So we've had bandanas. Cats are kind of a pain in the butt. You just put in their crib and they'll lay next to it. But dogs, we have bandanas. And now we just 2 weeks ago got new harnesses. So like a dog harness that you can walk, it has a pocket, at the heart level. And the reason is your vagus nerve, it's a key to a whole bunch of things to go through there to put the energy in. It's a 10th cranial brain or nerve in your brain. It comes down both sides of your necks. It clusters around your heart, and then it goes to all your organs and pieces and parts. It's the super highway where your brain talks to the organs and the organs talk to the brain. So that's why I invented this, because the vagus nerve is closest to the skin at the neck, and all the other the original vagus nerve stimulators are stuff you have to cut into your skull, put in your brain, or into your spine. I mean, they're very invasive surgery. The ones that are non-invasive-ish are electrical 15 volts that you put at your neck. You don't need to do that. And the rest of the industry hasn't caught on. They're all doing it because it's close to the skin. With a magnetic field, it's large enough. It's not real large, but it's enough to get to the heart by just wearing it like a necklace. So that's why I invented this, actually, was to make a piece of jewelry that you can just put by your heart to get to the vagus nerve without putting a coupling agent on your neck and shocking yourself. Or the other way you stimulate your vagus nerve is jump in an ice bath. Well, none of those are real convenient or fun. And this is super easy. So
I've been there before, and it's not fun. No.
No, it's not. So you don't have to shock, freeze, or buzz yourself with these new devices. That's the marketing angle we're coming at with.
Yeah. So, well, last question: how can people contact you?
They go to just go to the website, Resona, RESONA.health. There's no .com. So Resona.health. They'll find most of the information there. There's a lot less information they used to have to just try and comply with the FDA because they don't want this stuff to exist. So I've had to take down hundreds of pieces of content, unfortunately. And I feel bad because I get all customers like, I do marketing for a living. You ought to hire me because your website isn't that great. I'm like, and I want to tell them the truth, but I can't. It's like I had to take a bunch of stuff down to try and. The FDA is owned by the drug companies. Most people don't know this, but 75% of the research budget is funded by Pfizer, Merck, and Eli Lilly. 75% of the government's research budget is funded by the drug companies. So it's the chicken and the hen house. And drug companies are not in the business of making people better. Right? They lose their customer. So Indeed. Because that happens a lot. It's like people go, why haven't I heard about it? Like, who owns the most expensive commercials? 6 o'clock news. They're all drug commercials. Why? They own the airwaves. They have all the money. They're the ones that buy every. Look at that at your 6 o'clock. Here is the stat: 6 o'clock news, ABC, NBC, CBS, doesn't matter. Death, destruction, horror, drug commercial. Death, destruction, horror. And then at the very end, for the last 20 seconds, so you don't blow your brains out, they put me and my wife call it a puppy story. The last 20 seconds of nightly news is always something good. Always. Yeah. It's always 20, 15, 20-second puppy story, or some kid did good. Some lemonade stand kid did good, right?
The lemonade stand commercial. Yeah.
And just so you'll come back the next night maybe and watch the news. I try not too much because it's depressing, but anyway.
It is. Yeah. I agree, man. Wow. Well, Mr. Mark Fox, I really appreciated this conversation with you, and you dropped a lot of good information about not just your product, but the reality that frequency resonance works.
It works. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for everybody. Just like we said, the drugs. I'll just tell people, the lowest success rate we have is prostate. It's probably 60, 65%. Dude, promise. I wish it was higher, because you know how many 75-year-old guys call me and just start screaming at me? Right? Because it didn't work for them. Like, I'm sorry, send it back. I don't, sorry. Right? But it's always 75 very angry men. Right? Like, I did this, but it didn't help. I'm like, okay, don't know why. But 60% or 65% it does. Not all the protocols, but in general, not like I said, PTSD is 98. We know, we measure that. The rest of them are about 90% successful. So it's worth giving it a try. If it doesn't work for you, send it back.
Right. That's all we can do. That's all you can do. Mark Fox, I appreciate your time. And I really do look forward to seeing how your product fares out in the market, because I think I like what you got going on.
I appreciate that.
I,
Thank you so
I
much for
really
having me
do.
too.
I
It's great
really
talking to you. So thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much, Brother Mark. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Soldier Stories Podcast. If you have any questions that you want to reach out to Mr. Mark Fox about, please do so. I'll have the information listed on our YouTube site. So with that being said, guys, Mark, you have a good rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a good rest of your day as well. And I look forward to talking to you soon, sir.
All right, thank you again for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a
All right,
good one.
bye-bye. You
All
too.
right.